All right. Yeah, that popped up on mine.
Oh, okay. I'm still learning. Lord help.
Well, you're doing good.
Hey, 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 hey. I think we're good. I got to check it all out. We are live, y'all. Michelle, we're live, girl. You ready?
I'm ready.
I love you so much for being here. Guys, Pam Inspired here. Welcome and thank you for joining me for another Women in Power Wednesday. If you're joining us for the first time, the women I introduce you to are here to engage, empower, and inspire. Experts in what they do or knowledgeable because of what they went through. These women have the desire to help others. So real talk on the highs and lows, mental and physical well-being, their personal life, careers, failures, and the ambition to keep on keeping on. And for that, I give God all the praise.
Amen.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm so thankful that this resilient woman, and I'm kind of choked up because I love this woman so much, this resilient woman in power with me this evening is a breast cancer survivor. Michelle Popiel. Welcome, my sister friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I need to tell you that I am so inspired by your strength, by your courage, by your fight, and last but not least, your faith. Thank you for joining me this evening to share your journey with everyone that's tuned in.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm glad I can share.
I am too. It's so wonderful. I want to talk a little bit. Hold on, let me get something, girl. Technical. There we go. Sorry. I'm still learning this technical stuff. Whew. All right, we're good. We're good. I think we're on live and we're here. So look, thank you again. We go back about what, 10 years now?
Easily. About 10 years. I'd say 10 years.
Easily 10 years.
Yeah, easily.
And last year, about this time, we had lunch.
We had lunch. It was February, I believe.
It's February, right. And you shared that you had breast cancer and you beat it.
Yes. Yes, I did.
And when you told me, I obviously was like, what? You know, those initial reactions of what,
right.
When, why, how, you know, all these questions, because you were very, and rightfully so, quiet.
Quiet.
You were starting this journey.
Yeah.
You're starting your fight.
Right.
So tell the viewers, when did you find out? How long ago has it been now since you found out? So
it has almost been 5 years. I found out November 2015.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a while, but it's been almost 5 years. And the way I found out was, which is kind of funny because a year before that, which was 2014, I had my regular mammogram. I do them around November is when I do them, October and November. So I had my normal mammogram. And probably a month after that, I noticed some differences in my breast, and it was on the left side. And I shared with my husband, you know, that it just looked fuller to me, it looked a lot bigger than the right. So, you know, me and Brian said, you need to go back to your doctor. So I went to my primary first. I also have, you know, like issues on the right side, which is just like fibroid lumps or whatever.
Sure.
So they suggested an ultrasound, and on, you know, they did do a self mammogram on me on the left and on the right, but we'll do our due diligence. Let's get you an ultrasound. So, and I'm pretty sure they ultrasound both, but they found nothing. So then I had my regular gynecology appointment, which was probably around October, November. The gynecologist did a self-exam on me as well. And she too said, oh, you're fine. You just had your mammogram. I think there's nothing going on. So me, you know, dismissed that and moved on with my life.
Wow.
And the next year, November, I went in for my mammogram. This time when they took it, they compared last year and 2015 and noticed some changing. And so they said, we need to do an ultrasound. And they did it right then. They did the ultrasound the same day. Perfect. And the guy came back and he said, we're going to need to do a biopsy. And mind you, that kind of freaked me out because I'm like, okay, what's going on? You know, why do we have to do a biopsy? And so they scheduled that for probably a couple of days later. And the biopsy, and what happened with all that is they did the biopsy. We were supposed to wait for information back from the radiologist to tell us, yes, you know, whatever the findings were.
Right.
They called me. All they did, as soon as I had that biopsy, they immediately started putting me in contact with an advocate who, you know, streamlines where you go for oncology, where you go for breast surgery.
Wow.
I didn't even know what was going on with me.
Wow. So you're flooded. I mean, it went from like literally 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
2 miles an hour to 2,000 in like 30 minutes.
And I'm like, why would I be in touch with a breast surgeon? I don't, you know, what's going on with me? So anyway, they said, just make an appointment with this surgeon. He's good. And I said, but why would I do that? And they were saying like, that was their protocol, whatever. So I made the appointment. Meanwhile, I still haven't gotten any results. So Brian and I took my husband to that appointment with the breast surgeon. And and that was probably on a Thursday, probably a few days after we had the biopsy. We went Thursday to this doctor. We got there, waited in the lobby, waited for our turn. And the lady called us up and said, you don't have a referral. Mind you, this doctor's in the Prince William Hospital facility. So I figured he was not a specialist, but it turns out he's private.
Wow.
So a referral to see him. But this awesome doctor came out anyway. And he said, you know, I'm so sorry. What are you guys here for? And I told him, I said, they just told me to come here. He said, did you get results from a biopsy or anything? I said, no, they just told me to come meet you and talk to you about my next steps. And he was upset because the system didn't do what they were supposed to.
Right.
He said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm pulling your record. I'm just gonna go pull your file and I'll be right back. He came back, me and Brian are just sitting there and he says, I am so sorry to tell you this, Mr. and Mrs. Popiel, but you have breast cancer.
Wow.
It looks like it's small and we're gonna get it all and you'll be fine.
Oh,
exactly what this man said. And me and Brian just were shocked.
Right.
We're just, no words. We just were blown.
So I just want to kind of recap here because you noticed, you know, we look at our breasts as women. We look at our breasts, we look at our bodies, and I think this is what is so key and what's so important.
Right.
That, especially as we get older, that we've got to determine what's normal versus what's not normal.
We got to know our body. We have
exactly. So, because I know it's interesting. I just know that like my right side is a little bit bigger, literally, than my left side. Meaning my right breast is bigger than my left breast. You know, just these things.
And that's a normal thing. Yeah.
It's a normal thing. And I know
that's
that.
Thing.
But to your point, a year before,
yes,
you noticed.
I noticed it. It was fuller on one side that I hadn't known before. Wow. And I could feel it being fuller. I didn't feel any lump. I just felt the fullness. And when I went and saw that breast surgeon after he finally got me in and he looked at me, he said, me looking at you wouldn't have thought you had breast cancer.
Wow.
It doesn't look like breast cancer. So I had to get an MRI. You know, he can really see what he was working with.
Right.
You know, that's where he could see how big it was and what he could do. So
did they tell you? So, and I got a few questions. So I want to know, what stage? Was there a stage of cancer?
Right. I mean,
maybe tell us like a stage, and was it a type of cancer? Because there's all these different types of cancer. So
there's so many, and they're all so
many
different. But mine was still early cancer. It was stage 2.
Stage 2.
And it was, it's called a lobular cancer. So it's in the lobulars of your breast.
Okay.
It happened to be on the outer left side.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in 2 sections. It was like one on top, one on bottom. And what they do is they measure the largest one. And thankfully, mine still fit into the range of being early stage 2.
Wow.
And another saving grace is, you know, how I waited a whole year, for my next mammogram, well, that the cancer was not aggressive. So I think that really helped, me to get the treatments and things that I needed to be.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because I have had some friends. I've got actually a very dear, close friend of mine who they told her she had cancer and it was aggressive, but it was localized, if you will. So that
Yes,
gave
that's great.
her
Yeah.
some more
Yes.
peace in knowing that we can get it all.
Right.
And she caught it early. I mean,
Right. Early
it
detection is key, like they say. Except, of course, when you have those aggressive cancers, they just go rampant. So.
Did you get an opportunity, Michelle? Because again, we're talking really, like I said, 2 miles an hour to 2,000. I mean, in a day.
Right.
At what point did you start to process, like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with? Because you shared some very intimate, personal stages of this with you as well, and rightfully so. Depression, kind of being withdrawn. Can you share a little bit of that with us? Like once you found out, like just that emotional part of it.
But the emotional, it mainly came after I had gone through chemo and gone through radiation. I started to go down where I didn't want to do anything, but sit in my house. I mean, when I was diagnosed, my husband had just gotten to an accident as well on his job, to where he was injured and home with me. And in the midst of me going through what I was going through, he was building, trying to bust out our side of our bedroom and having this sitting area. Who knew that that was going to be my domain for cancer? That's where I spent my time. And I wouldn't do anything else. I'd come home, put on my sweats, and I would sit in that, that little sitting area and not move. That was my life.
Like your sanctuary of where you
that was my I wouldn't go outdoors. I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to talk about cancer. I didn't want to, but thankfully, for my husband, during my treatments, he came to all my treatments.
Right.
Would by the time Friday would come around, my treatments were on a Monday. It was every other Monday. By the time Friday would come around, when I was feeling a bit better, he'd be like, "Come on, let's get up. We're going to Lowe's. We're going to walk around Lowe's. We're going to do some stuff, get moving."
Yes.
I didn't want to, but I would do it. I would get up. And I can tell you another great moment during that time when I was feeling, just you feel yucky when you're doing treatments and all that. My mom was going through cancer at the same time.
I was going to, Betty. Yes.
At the same time for a whole different cancer. But her treatments were Tuesday. My treatments were Monday. On Wednesday, my mama was at my house ringing my bell, trying to see if I needed anything. So it was just, I had so much support from family.
So much support. And that's one of my questions.
My husband. That was my support. All of that. So.
Because it is a place, and I haven't had cancer, but I did find a solid mass. And I do know what the fear of just finding the solid mass in my
It's shock.
Because I found it and I just immediately thought I had cancer. There was no middle ground whatsoever, which is a myth, if you will. I'm going to go to one of our myths. I look up, I educate myself. I know a lot about breast cancer, but it's interesting how these myths kind of come up. And I'm going to share one of the myths that I found. And that is just what we were talking about. Finding a lump in your breast means you have breast cancer. And that absolutely is not the truth. I got this from the National Breast Cancer Foundation. And I'll just read what it says quickly. It says, only a small percentage of breast lumps turn out to be cancer.
It's true.
But if you discover a persistent lump in your breast or notice any changes in breast tissue, like you did, it should never be ignored. It is very important that you see a physician for a clinical breast exam.
Right.
He or she may possibly order breast imaging studies to determine if the lump is of concern or not. So this goes back to regular exams, self-exams, really getting to know your body, and anything that's abnormal to just get it checked out.
Right. And I can tell you, I also did the gene testing.
You did?
Negative for all of that. And then I did the extended gene testing and tested negative for it. So it's not necessarily hereditary at all. So,
Interesting.
Is not a respecter of person. So
interesting, because that was one of my questions. Is there a family history of breast cancer?
And I do have some breast cancer in my family, but not my immediate family, not my
immediate
family. Look at your grandmother, they look at your mother, they look at your sisters. None of us have it, but I do have an aunt on my father's side that had it, and an aunt on my mother's side that had it. She was in her 60s, and I think my other aunt may have been in her 40s.
Sure.
But they don't even go from there. They start with grandma, mom, on that side.
Right.
Nobody had that. So yeah.
Wow. So you've got your sanctuary in your home, and this is
and I still, that's where I am now.
And that's where you really?
Yes, I'm sitting in it now.
And it does, I have to imagine, talking to God quite a bit, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Praying.
All the time, yep.
All the time.
And I always said, God, you would never give me more than I can bear.
I know.
I can do this. And, and I would get up every day and I would do it. I would do my 1 week of chemo, and I'd work from home, and the next week I'd be back at work, on my job. And I can tell you probably 5 people at my job at the time knew I had cancer.
Right.
Nobody had any idea because I didn't talk about it.
Right.
Didn't hear it until I was done with chemo that I started talking about it.
Until you started talking about it. So the chemo process. So remind me, radiation and chemo, both at the same time, one before the other?
I had surgery, mastectomy first.
You did have a mastectomy, okay.
I had a mastectomy, just a single. I had chemotherapy right after that, which was probably a month right after that. And I asked for them to go aggressive because I'm like, if this is the plan, let's go.
Let's do it all.
Radiation right after that.
Radiation after.
Yeah, that's the last part of it. So, yeah.
So your body is going through the effects of radiation and chemo, and you're working. You're still going to your job.
Yeah.
Mind sharing some of the effects of, I'm sure there was some good days and bad days, or.
Yeah. A little nausea.
Right.
Want to eat a lot. So your taste buds, definitely are funny, metallic tasting, everything didn't taste right.
Right.
I went through a certain chemo where they call it the red devil, which is the color red. So the color, you got to know, the color red was a hard thing for me to come back to and start to wear again. Couldn't stand.
The psychological. Wow.
Yeah. Yes, but my oldest sister told me when I was doing that chemo, because I would tell her what kind of chemo it was, and it was hot chemo. I had to take ice with that chemo, otherwise it would burn you up. So, and I was telling her all this, and she said, "Girl, that is the blood of Jesus going through your veins."
Come on now, let's flip it.
And I stood on that, and I was able to go in there and do that treatment.
Yes.
I didn't look at it, but I would get it done because I said, "This is healing me." And even after that, I know people talk about how bad chemo is. It really is. It does take away your bad cells and some good. But I tell you what, I used to get, like with your cycle, a headache every month.
Right.
I'll tell you, for 4 years after chemo, I got not one headache. I didn't get not one pimple on my face. My skin was so smooth. And I was like, there's got to be some good going on with that.
Wait, and I remember you told me, didn't your hair come back like 15 times thicker?
Oh yeah.
Like your hair, because you lost your hair.
But my own hair is here. I've never had hair here. My natural hair is here. So, So, I'm still working on my hair.
Of course, we all are.
There are some thinnings in spots, but
yes.
But I did lose all my hair with that chemo. It was probably the second time I took chemo, that hair was gone. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but of course that wasn't my
right.
That didn't, it was just, I'm covering it up. I wasn't one to sport no bald head. I know people do, agree with that.
Sure. Right. No, I understand.
I knew I was going to lose my hair. So I was like, I'm good with that.
It's the process. You were going.
My hair's going to come back. I know my
process.
Hair's so.
Wow.
But
wow. So. Wow. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your wonderful husband. Let's talk about your support network. I know Brian well. He's amazing. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen him. I was going to say something about the Redskins, but I won't. I'm not even going to go there. But talk just about the support system. I mean, you've got beautiful sisters.
Yeah.
You've got your beautiful children.
I mean,
Sure.
I just have a praying family.
That's it.
Praying church family. I mean, it's just, that was huge. I mean, my church family prayed for me before I knew the diagnosis.
Right.
It was, emotional so much, but it was, those prayers were powerful. And I,
Yes.
kept that with me. And then my sisters and my mother constantly just prayed for me during this whole thing. And of course, my husband, but my mom, which my older sister always reminds me, is that my mom kept a journal. And after she passed, my sister collected those journals, and she said, you're just about on every one of her pages in this journal. She was just praying for you. And, so that was my strength. That was my keep on going. Let's keep this going. But Brian, just a cheerleader. I mean, this man, he literally would take out from work that whole week I had chemo, and he would be with me. He sat through those 4 and 5 hour infusions. He would have his headphones or whatever, but he sat there. We'd go get food, we fill up, and then he would just watch me the whole week until that Friday came. So he'll take me outside.
That's wonderful.
He would go back to work the next
Sure.
week.
So 4 or 5 hours. I heard you say 4 or 5 hours. That's how long your treatments were.
They're about 4 to 5 hours because they have to prep you for the treatment going in. So they give you steroids, they give you Benadryl, everything so your body can take the medicine. Also, if you have nausea issues, they'll give you nausea going through those. I had a port put in up here, so that made it easier for them to give me all that.
Yes.
And they would give you your treatment. And you would have to sit there the treatment was maybe 2 hours. So you would sit there and be infused for 2 hours, and then I could just, and the thing about chemo is it makes you tired.
Right.
It makes you not want to eat. So I would load up. Me and Brian would just go eat. Make sure Saturday and Sunday I'm eating good. Monday, and then by Tuesday I'm like,
you didn't feel like much, right?
I didn't start eating again until probably the weekend.
Right.
Right. So, but yeah.
Right. Wow. It's good. I'm just taking a quick peek. I do want to encourage anybody who's watching right now, if you have a question for Michelle, she is more than happy to answer it. When we're done, if you don't feel comfortable asking a question now and you want to send a question afterwards, I'll make sure she gets it. This is such an important subject, breast cancer. This is the month that we need to increase the awareness. It's an all year round subject, but specifically for the month of October, we really want to bring some greater awareness to it. I believe that just about everyone knows someone who has survived or unfortunately lost their lives to breast cancer. And so I want to just recap real quickly, if you're just joining us, that one of the most important things that Michelle said when we first started is that she noticed something wasn't normal. Something was abnormal. And we talked a little bit about looking at your breasts, and you really can. And I have a post probably about a week ago, different pictures of how your breasts can look if something is abnormal. So I encourage you, if you get a second, to just look at it because it's interesting. Everything from one maybe being a little bit lower than the other, or yours, you're sitting plump.
It was just
fuller. It was fuller. So really just not, kind of taking those things for granted and brushing it off to having a bad day, or I gotta have, because, we tend to do that a lot of times, just not, but to really just take it seriously. And
right. And people sometimes say, you'll feel pain. I didn't feel pain at all.
No pain. You didn't have any pain. Right. See? So. And it goes back to, again, I think, you have to have a lump, which is not the case.
No.
And you have to be in pain, which is not the case. No. So really it is important to use your eyes.
Yep, as your own advocate for yourself.
Exactly.
Body.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So, so give us an idea now. So this is November, almost 5 years ago, November.
It'll be December. Well, I count when they took it out, which was in December.
Yes.
I had my surgery December 18th, I think, 2015. So that's the 5-year count for me.
5-year count December. We're gonna have to do a little something, a little party or something on the 5th year.
Yeah.
But so tell me, you found out in December.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about that next year, though. So we talked a little bit about, the treatments.
Right.
Was it a year? So you had your mastectomy first.
So I had the mastectomy first.
Then you had your treatments.
Then I had the treatments. And then after that, it was just, you do what you want. But what I was noticing was, of course, your breasts are not, when you have your mastectomy, they put an implant in there, but it's one that's not fully inflated. It's just a spacer. So
Okay.
time to do surgery, like a reconstructive.
Right.
They'll put the implant. They have to have space, so they just put it there so you'll have space by the time they do it.
Okay.
So that means I had the implant put in April following that year. After not April, maybe July, right after the chemotherapy, they had the surgery and put the implant in. And what I noticed was, of course, it wasn't right. It just didn't. So I had another one. They opened me back up, fixed it. Wasn't right. So probably 3 times did I go back in there, and I told them, I said, just make it smaller. I don't want, and so they had to reduce on the right, because I'm like, I don't want, you trying to make me look like whatever, just
right.
It doesn't look right. I mean,
Right.
if they tell you, yeah, you'll have your mastectomy, or if you have a double,
Right.
you also look nice. No, they look crazy. So,
Right.
so, but I'm fine with that. I'm good.
Right.
I'm not going back in for any surgeries. I'll probably tattoo the whole thing, though.
Look at you.
Something pretty, and I think that'll make me happy, to see something like that.
Well, and you know what? I'm thinking over here, like, I commend you, because now, again, going through the stages of it all, now you're having to look at yourself.
Oh, and I don't like it.
You have to look at yourself, and you have to now be reminded.
Yes. And
every day.
It's a reminder, and it's not, and again, my husband.
Right.
Don't even care.
Right.
I mean, and it's just, that keeps me leaving my body the way it is. Don't go back in for this. Don't go back, because my husband is okay. But I do want the tattoo, though. So we'll see whatever I decide to do.
I think it's an amazing idea. Let me know. Let me know what you're going to tap.
Yeah, I want to get it. That'll be my first time ever. So
hey, but it's, what I say, it's just a part of embracing it. Really embracing it. Once you get to a point where you're ready to put a tat up, you're embracing it. It's
right, exactly.
Healing. You're healing.
Now I'm ready. Oh yeah, and I can tell you about the we're talking about a little bit of depression. Whether it was so much of depression, but it was a lull spot after the radiation where I just didn't do anything. I literally, like I said, I sat in this room, and that was my life. I would come home, like I said, watch TV, sweats, nothing. And I took my first trip in November with Brian to a wedding or a training or something. And that was my first time out. And it just felt so good to be out. And at church, a man prophesied over me after he didn't know who I was. And he literally said, I see you dancing. I see you, doing the things you used to do. All things made new. And that was like my confirmation that I'm healed from this.
Oh, I just got chill bumps.
I mean, it's still hard, but I always go back to that and say, this man, you didn't know me, but this is what he said. So,
yes.
I truly believe I'm healed. I
believe it. I know it.
Stop attaching myself to everybody's story and going back
to
zone.
And that's a good point, because I can
get so caught up.
Yeah, there's a couple things, and and just a quick shout out to the husbands, because I too went through something and I lost a lot of my hair, and my husband was just like, so what? It was just like, he was just so like, it didn't matter. It doesn't make you, it doesn't, and so just kind of a shout out there, and because I can feel you when you lose something hair, but it's to the world, it's something different than what it's.
That's
exactly complete whole. You're not complete or whole, whatever that is.
I lost my hair. My husband was like, you need to just go outside with it bald. And I'm like,
I'm 2 seconds from giving up all my wraps and wigs and all that stuff. And I'm this close. But it is reassuring, and the love that they pour into us is really good. It makes you it makes you feel good.
Oh yeah.
That is so awesome. So awesome. All right. So we talked about the depression a little bit, which is obviously a little bit of an obstacle, but you grew so much through
Right.
this.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, me and you just talking and you
Yeah.
knowing that people are watching,
Hmm. Oh yeah.
huge for you.
Oh, it's huge.
So
Yeah.
you kind of,
Literally 4 or
you're
5
through a
years ago.
threshold. You push through that threshold, you know,
Oh
you're
yeah.
into that next.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling now? What are you, just,
I mean, I feel pretty good. I still have to take a medicine that I have to take for 10 years because of
okay.
the age I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed at 45. So I have to take a medicine for 10 years that
Mm-hmm.
basically like an anti-cancer type of drug, kind of like
Yes.
chemo, but it's not chemo. You know what I mean? It's like almost like a inhibitor or something like that that blocks estrogen. So I'll be on that for the next, I have, I think, 5 more years of this medicine.
Okay.
And that medicine brings on hot flashes. So that was all new for me, but my hot flashes are double time more than anybody's because of pushing that hot flash.
Right.
But other than that, I feel fine. I have a little neuropathy in my feet where your
Ah.
toes are tingly and numb, and that's a side effect of the chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
But you walk fine. You may be a little off balance every now and then, but
Sure.
I'm fine with that. What else? And a few aches and pains because
Yeah.
chemo does break you down, and that medicine does.
Yeah. Anytime the medicine.
I take calcium,
Yeah.
things like that to keep me up. My only thing is I lost a lot of motivation, and that's not just
Mm.
that was from COVID. Just being us being in the lockdown, which I'm fine. I'm so grateful that I could do my job from home and all that.
Sure.
But the effects of it, I don't want to exercise.
Right. I know.
I,
You're
I,
not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. I had to dig deep,
oh,
deep, deep,
man,
deep.
it's
Yeah.
hard. So that
And
kind
it is hard. It is hard. It is hard. Now, are you with COVID though? I know like I have friends that might have some pre-existing conditions.
oh,
Do
right.
you fall into that category?
I believe so. I believe my immune system was
The
compromised
immune system, right. Uh-huh.
because of all that. So I do, I'm pretty cautious,
Sure.
knowing things.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I do feel good. I don't have, like
Right.
respiratory or anything kind of issue. And I tell you again, like even with chemotherapy, whatever, I don't have allergies. I don't have a lot of things that I used to have.
Wow.
I
That
do believe
amazes.
chemo contributed to a lot of that.
It knocked out. It not only got rid of the cancer, you got no acne, you don't
No,
have, your skin
I mean,
looks amazing.
but it,
Wow.
but now that it's out of my system, I can see
Right.
things coming back now. I was just saying, like within the 4 years, though,
Right.
nothing. I was like, this is just awesome.
And I could, girl, I admire you for just rolling with it. I mean, what can you do, right? What
Yeah,
can you do? But
right.
you pull as much of it, the good of it as you can. Pull it
I mean,
out as much as you can.
right. I mean, like people say, I mean, some people I know, refuse to do chemo, but I know it
Yes.
helped to my life
Yes.
and everything. So
With everything you were told from the doctor, the stage
right.
that you were at,
I'm like,
where it
yeah,
is, with
yeah,
the
this is
chances
best
that,
for me. And
yes.
radiation was actually an option. They asked me, do you want to go ahead and do the radiation?
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I want to go full force. This is the plan for me.
Right.
Or this is what I'm supposed to go through. So I went ahead and did it. And I think radiation was probably worse than the chemotherapy, to be honest, because radiation really is burning you on the outside.
Right. Right.
So
Wow. Okay, let's go to another myth. I've got one more myth, and we talked about this a little bit. Men do not get breast cancer. It only affects women.
no, that's false.
And we know that is false. It's not talked about as much,
Right.
but we absolutely know that men can get breast cancer. And I'll just read again. This comes from the National Breast Cancer Foundation. And it says, quite the contrary. Each year it is estimated that approximately 2,190 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer and 410 will die.
Wow.
While this percentage is still small, men should also check themselves periodically by doing breast self-exams while in the shower and reporting any changes to their physicians.
Yeah.
Breast cancer in men is usually detected as a hard lump underneath the nipple. Men carry a higher mortality than women do with this.
Huh.
And it's primarily because of the awareness. You
Mhm.
know, they're just not aware, and unfortunately, they're in a stage 3 or 4 by then. So I did just want to share that as well, because it's just important to put it out there. Breast cancer is breast cancer. Men have
Breast.
breasts too,
Yeah.
differently formed, different, you know, but still it's obviously a place that cancer can find itself. So
Yeah, that's
I
true.
did want to put that out there.
That is true.
So something to keep in mind. So what is something that you would like to share to the women that are watching? If there's anything that you could share, a message of hope or inspiration, if they're going through this or they're supporting someone who's going through this, what is something, Michelle, that you could tell them?
Well, I mean, if they're a woman that may be going, or just about their breast anyway, or breast period, just, you know, if you notice something different, just you know, advocate for yourself. You know, do self-exam. If you notice it's different and your doctor still says request a mammogram anyway.
Right.
You know, if you got to pay for it out of pocket, pay for it out of pocket. I had a scare this last fall where I just had my well, not last fall, but it was February this year, where I had a mammogram the year before, and I still felt lumpy on the right side. And I said, I need another mammogram. I need a sonogram, ultrasound, whatever. And they did it all. But I did have to pay for the mammogram because it was my second in the time that it was. But it was fine. I was like, I don't care. Do whatever you can do. Because last time I didn't do that. You know, I didn't follow up. I just listened to them and moved on. So please advocate for yourself. You got to have a support team if you're going through it. You got to have somebody to support you. I couldn't imagine somebody doing this by themselves.
Right.
It's too hard. I mean, I'm, you know, I know everybody's not married, but I am so thankful for my husband for being that cheerleader, because I could have just crawled into bed, covered my head, and not did nothing. You know, I could have did the treatment. This man was like, no, let's go. We got to get up. We got to do this.
Right.
Okay, I just, you know, would do it. You know, we go to church every Sunday.
Right.
I've had those treatments. I mean, we would just do it. I mean, this was life. You know, God's got me. You know, it's your battle.
Yes. Yes. And I would think if you don't have, you know, direct support, that there are programs and there are services. This is huge. They don't want any woman left to be alone to have to deal with
those services.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I did not at the time, not because I was so reliant on my family. I just, like I said, when I was diagnosed, it just took me for a whirlwind. It wasn't something I was speaking on. I don't want to see it. Don't show me nothing where somebody's talking about it. I didn't want to talk to nobody that was going through it.
Right.
Leave me alone. You know what I mean? Let me pray, you know, in my word. Let me talk to my church family, my family, whatever. I just didn't connect. I couldn't with it at all. I mean, it probably took me 2 years or so before I could actually, you know, really.
And that's normal. I would think that's normal.
But
you know, it's breast cancer. This is an emotional.
But those are things they don't tell you. You know, some people platform and immediately put it out there.
Right.
Talking about their journey.
Right.
I feel God didn't give me that. You know, that was not my way to get it out there. So I never did. I just kind of, you know, it wasn't a private battle because people knew it. It's just I didn't go broadcast it.
Right.
You know, to spots and things. And I just, but your support team is huge.
It's huge.
It really is. It just, you know, and always have have your, have something to believe in, something faithful, something, you know, just your mind has to be, you know, ready to do it. Don't go into like a slump or negative. Just be, you know, positive. You're going to make it, you know, go through your, you know, treatments, you know, eat, you know, do whatever you can, just positive, be happy, you know, it's hard, but you got to keep a lifted spirit. I mean, you have to, because.
And I believe that I am a huge believer of positivity and how it can really pour into your healing.
Right.
You know,
because you don't want
to get. When I had Lyme disease, when I had Lyme disease, when they told me, when they diagnosed me with Lyme disease, the first thing the doctor said is, you're going to beat this because of how positive you are. It's the first thing she said.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, Lord, here we go.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, here we go. So, so just to your point, you know, it's not easy.
It isn't easy. It isn't easy. My doctor, my breast surgeon, every time I would go see him, and he would say, I just can't believe your attitude and how upbeat you are about this, you know, and going through this. And he said, look at your stamina. He said, you just come in here, you know, and you're just so strong about it all. And I said, what other way can I be? You know, you have to. I mean, I got to get through this, you know, and I have faith, you have faith, and we just, you know, standing on God's words. You know,
amen.
He's gonna give me more than what I can bear. He's gonna help me. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that is extremely encouraging. And like I said, and I'll apologize, guys, if you put any questions on, I can't get to them right now. Still the technology, but I promise you, I'm gonna get them. And I'm going to make sure I get them to Michelle, and I'm going to make sure that she answers them. So I'll work on that next time. Sorry for that. But we are about to close out. But I want to say, Michelle, that I love saying you're a breast cancer survivor.
Thank you. I like saying
you're a survivor. You're a survivor. And I thank you. No, we thank you, who's ever watching. We thank God for you and your willingness to share your story with us. Because I know it's touched, if, like we said, if it's just one.
Yep, I thank you for letting me do this. I mean, because like I said, I've not really done it. You know, small groups I have, but I have not, you know, just told people what were the ins and outs of what I went through. So, and how I got through it, which, you know, key was my spouse. Right. And of course, the Lord is always the key, but spouse was huge in my healing. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're a warrior and you're an inspiration. And I am, again, just so blessed to have you on this evening. And we definitely will when December rolls around. Oh, yeah. I think we're still going to be COVID bound.
Yeah.
But I definitely 5 years. I know in the cancer world in general, when you hit these milestones,
it's a milestone. It is
a milestone.
Yeah. So I'm just, you know, waiting for the 5 years, and then I'll count the 10 years and 15 years.
I love it.
So yeah.
I love it so much. Well, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
I love you more. I love you more. Guys, look, this is Pam Inspired. Had a wonderful evening with Michelle. She is a breast cancer survivor. I encourage you, yes, thank you, Lord. I encourage you to, again, if you've got any questions, leave them. I'll make sure. If this is your first time, go to Pam Inspired, like my page. I'd love you for it. We'll have some amazing women coming up in the next couple weeks. November is Entrepreneur Month, so we'll have some great entrepreneurs on the show as well. So thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.